For centuries, the Book of Enoch has been hidden, dismissed, or labeled as forbidden scripture. Yet within its pages lies a story so powerful, so unsettling, that it reshapes the way we see angels, humanity, and even the origins of evil itself. These are not the angels you were told about in Sunday school, nor the simple stories you heard in church pews. These are beings who descended, who broke divine law, who gave forbidden knowledge to mankind. But why was this story suppressed? Why was the Book of Enoch cast out of the biblical canon? And what would it mean if the truth about the fallen angels had been deliberately concealed from us all along? The Book of Enoch begins with a warning that judgment will fall not only upon humanity, but upon the heavenly beings who betrayed their sacred duty. These beings are known as the Watchers, angels assigned to watch over humanity, to guide and protect. But instead of remaining faithful, they looked down upon the daughters of men and desired them. The text describes their decision as deliberate. A pact sworn together upon Mount Hermon. 200 angels descended, led by chiefs with names that still echo through history. Semjaza, Azazel, Armaros, Kokabiel. They did not simply fall. They chose rebellion. They took human wives. And from this forbidden union came children, giants, called the Nephilim, towering, violent, insatiable. These hybrids consumed the earth's resources, brought bloodshed, and corrupted what was once pure. To the ancients, this explained the great destruction of early humanity, a chaos so severe that the flood itself would be sent to wipe the earth clean. But their sin did not end with lust. The Watchers also brought knowledge. They taught humanity secrets not meant for them. Enchantments, weaponry, astrology, the use of precious stones, the arts of war and seduction. Azazel, in particular, revealed the craft of forging weapons and the use of cosmetics, turning both beauty and bloodshed into tools of corruption, what we call progress today. Enoch paints as forbidden wisdom, gifts stolen from heaven that chained humanity to violence and vanity. The question that haunts these passages is simple. If angels truly descended and offered mankind this knowledge, how much of our civilization is built not by divine blessing, but by rebellion? How much of what we call culture, technology, even religion, came from fallen ones who broke the order of heaven? The Watchers were not cast gently aside. They were bound, imprisoned in the depths until the day of final judgment. Yet, their offspring, the Nephilim, left a mark on earth, a memory that lingers in myths of giants, demigods, and fallen heroes across cultures. This was no simple story of angels with harps and halos. This was a cosmic crime, a fracture between heaven and earth. And the Book of Enoch asks us to face a dangerous question. What if the very foundations of human knowledge were sown in rebellion, not grace? The Book of Enoch does not stop at the sin of desire. It makes clear that the true betrayal of the Watchers was not only their union with humankind, but the knowledge they poured into the world. To understand this, we must remember, in ancient thought, knowledge was not neutral. It was sacred. It belonged to heaven. To give it away recklessly was to alter the destiny of the world itself. The Watchers taught metallurgy, how to forge iron into swords and bronze into shields. They revealed how to polish blades until they gleamed, and how to create weapons that could pierce flesh and shatter bone. War, once fought with stones and wood, became bloodier, deadlier. Humanity was handed the tools of mass slaughter long before its time. They taught enchantments and sorcery, spells to summon, to control, to twist reality itself. Rituals that blurred the line between worship and manipulation, drawing mankind into dangerous pacts. The Book of Enoch speaks of these practices not as progress, but as corruption, chains of deception binding men and women to spirits beyond their comprehension. They taught astrology, the reading of stars, the mapping of heavenly bodies, the calculation of seasons, not for harvest, but for omens. The Watchers took the majesty of the heavens and turned it into a system of manipulation, convincing humanity they could bend fate itself by learning the secrets of the sky. And perhaps most disturbing of all, they revealed vanity. Azazel taught women to paint their eyes with coal, to decorate themselves with jewels, to inflame desire through appearance, what we might see as harmless art or beauty. Enoch portrays as the very first seeds of corruption, turning the gift of human form into an object of lust and power. What emerges is chilling. Nearly every cornerstone of human civilization, warfare, technology, fashion, seduction, even science, appears in the Book of Enoch not as divine blessing, but as forbidden knowledge. Progress, the text suggests, is not always holy. It can be the very fruit of rebellion, disguised as enlightenment. Ask yourself, how many of the things we celebrate today, our weapons, our sciences, our technologies, would Enoch have condemned as the legacy of the fallen? How much of human greatness is actually rooted in angelic sin? The Watchers blurred the boundary between heaven and earth, between sacred and profane. They gave us tools of creation and destruction, and once given, they could never be taken back. Humanity could not forget. The world would never again be innocent. And so, Enoch's account leaves us with a haunting thought. If the Watchers were punished for corrupting mankind with knowledge, then what does that say about us? Creatures who still use that same knowledge every single day? If the descent of the Watchers was a wound in heaven's order, then their children were the scar left upon the earth. The Book of Enoch calls them the Nephilim, beings born of angelic fathers and human mothers, giants of immense stature, terrible in strength, insatiable in appetite. They were not merely tall men. They were predators, consuming livestock, fields of grain, and finally, human flesh. They ruled with terror, dominating villages and cities, demanding tribute not in gold, but in blood. To the ancients, these creatures were the explanation for chaos in the world, an unnatural race that poisoned creation itself. Their presence echoes in myths across cultures. The Greeks told of titans and demigods, sons of gods who walked the earth with extraordinary power. The Norse spoke of frost giants. Native traditions across the Americas recall giants who roamed the land before being destroyed. Are these coincidences of imagination or fragmented memories of the same primal truth? The Nephilim were more than monsters of flesh. They represented the breaking of a boundary that was never meant to be crossed. Heaven and earth were not supposed to mingle in this way. Humanity was not supposed to carry divine blood. The Nephilim embodied corruption, a blending of realms that violated the structure of creation. The violence of these beings became unbearable. The Book of Enoch says that the cries of humanity reached heaven itself. Blood stained the ground, and the very earth groaned beneath their weight. The angels who remained loyal looked down and saw a world drowning in sin. Something had to be done, but here lies the haunting question. Were the Nephilim truly destroyed? Scripture speaks of the flood cleansing the earth, wiping away their existence. Yet other passages hint that they survived, that traces of them endured long after the waters receded. In the book of Numbers, even Moses' spies report seeing giants in Canaan. The sons of Anak, descendants of the Nephilim. Could it be that fragments of this ancient race still walked among humans long after their supposed annihilation? If so, what does that mean for us today? Were the Nephilim completely erased, or do remnants of their bloodline still linger in humanity? Could the tales of extraordinary kings, warriors, or bloodlines of the divine right to rule find their origin not in God's blessing, but in the corruption of fallen angels? The Nephilim challenge the very core of belief. They force us to ask whether humanity's story is purely human at all, or whether, long ago, our world was reshaped by beings who were never meant to be here. And so, the shadow of the Nephilim stretches across time, raising a question that chills the soul. If their blood still flows in, even a few, then are we not all still living in the age of the Watchers? The cries of the earth did not go unheard. According to the Book of Enoch, when humanity and creation itself groaned under the weight of corruption, the Most High commanded judgment upon the Watchers. These angels, once radiant and entrusted with guardianship, were now branded as betrayers. The archangels, Michael, Gabriel, Raphael, and Uriel, were dispatched to confront them. Their task was not gentle. Michael was sent to bind Semjaza, the chief of the Watchers. Raphael was commanded to shackle Azazel, the one who had revealed the secrets of war and seduction. Gabriel and Uriel struck against the Nephilim, setting nations against them, driving them into bloodshed until their monstrous strength turned upon itself. The punishment was severe. The Watchers were bound hand and foot, cast into the valleys of the earth, buried beneath jagged rocks in the darkness. There, Enoch tells us, they were imprisoned until the day of judgment. A day when they would be dragged before the throne of the Almighty, not to plead, but to be condemned. Azazel, singled out above all, was thrown into a desert abyss. His face was covered in jagged stones, and he was left to endure torment until the final fire would consume him. The Book of Enoch makes it clear. The corruption of the world was laid upon him. All the violence of war, all the vanity of lust, all the rebellion of humanity. Azazel was to carry the weight of it. But consider what this story means. The watchers were not destroyed. They were restrained, imprisoned, awaiting. And if they were bound in chains beneath the earth, then their presence is not gone. It lingers. Enoch describes them crying out, begging their children, the Nephilim, to intercede on their behalf. They even plead with Enoch himself to write a petition to God. But heaven answers coldly, there will be no forgiveness. This raises an unsettling thought. If the watchers still exist, bound in places hidden from us, then are the dark forces we sense in the world today, the temptations, the shadows, the inexplicable evils, merely echoes of their ancient corruption? Does the weight of their rebellion still press upon our world, even now? And if their chains were meant to hold them until the end of time, what happens if those chains are ever broken? The Book of Enoch closes no door. Instead, it leaves us staring into an abyss, wondering if the earth itself is a prison, and if the ground beneath our feet holds the remnants of angels who once ruled the sky. The world, Enoch tells us, had become unrecognizable. Violence filled the earth. The Nephilim devoured everything in sight, and the Watchers' forbidden teachings spread like fire through mankind. Sorcery, bloodshed, and corruption touched every corner of creation. Humanity was on the brink of collapse, and so the Most High made a decision. The slate would be wiped clean. The very earth that had been corrupted would be drowned beneath the waters of a great flood. The flood is not just a story we find in Genesis. Versions of it echo across cultures, from Mesopotamia's Epic of Gilgamesh to stories of massive deluges in native Hindu and Greek traditions. Could it be that all these ancient accounts point back to the same catastrophic event? According to Enoch, the flood was not simply a punishment for mankind. It was a targeted act of cleansing meant to destroy the Nephilim and erase the corruption seeded by the Watchers. The waters rose, the heavens opened, and the world was drowned. Giants who once terrorized humanity fell beneath the waves. Their bodies perished, but their spirits, Enoch claims, remained restless, bound to the earth as wandering demons, forever cut off from heaven. Here lies a disturbing thought. If demons exist, then perhaps they are not fallen angels at all, but the disembodied souls of the Nephilim, offspring of angels and humans doomed to walk the world in thirst and rage. Yet not everything was lost. Noah, chosen by God for his righteousness, was preserved with his family. He became the vessel through which humanity would begin again. But even here, the shadow of the Watchers lingered. Though the flood cleansed the earth, traces of forbidden knowledge remained, carried forward by memory, by story, perhaps even by blood. If the flood truly happened, it was not just a divine punishment. It was a reset, a chance for humanity to begin anew, cleansed of giants, sorcery, and angelic rebellion. But ask yourself, did it succeed? Did the corruption vanish? Or does the survival of giant legends, of ancient mysteries, suggest that something endured? And if the flood was a reset, how many times has humanity been reset before? How many times has knowledge been erased, civilizations buried, only to rise again? The Book of Enoch forces us to see the flood not as a children's tale of animals in an ark, but as an apocalyptic judgment meant to erase the very offspring of heaven's rebellion. A story of destruction so absolute, it still echoes in myths around the world. But perhaps the most haunting question remains: if humanity was reset once, could it happen again? The flood came. The Nephilim were destroyed. The Watchers were chained in darkness, and humanity was given a new beginning. But the Book of Enoch does not allow us to rest comfortably in this ending, because even though judgment fell, the influence of the fallen ones did not simply vanish. The forbidden knowledge they gave to mankind could not be unlearned. The crafts of metallurgy, enchantment, and astrology continued to spread through ancient cultures. The very sciences, weapons, and arts that the Watchers revealed became the backbone of human civilization. In other words, the shadow of their rebellion has been with us ever since. And the Nephilim, though their bodies drowned, their spirits remained. Enoch calls them evil spirits upon the earth, doomed to wander, to corrupt, to afflict humanity until the final day of judgment. Could this be the origin of what later traditions came to call demons? Restless, bodiless entities tied forever to the corruption of the Watchers. Look around the world today. Our weapons grow more destructive. Our technologies advance faster than our wisdom can contain them. Our obsessions with vanity, with power, with secret knowledge, all these echo the forbidden gifts first taught by Azazel and his brethren. Have we truly escaped their influence? Or are we still living under the weight of their betrayal? And what of their bloodline? The Bible itself hints at giants after the flood. The Anakim, the Rephaim, remnants of something not entirely human. If even a trace of their seed endured, then perhaps the story of the Nephilim is not ancient myth at all, but an ongoing reality. Are the powerful bloodlines of history, the kings, the conquerors, the dynasties, descended not from divine blessing, but from angelic corruption? The Book of Enoch was removed from the biblical canon. Some call it heresy, others call it forbidden truth. But ask yourself, why? Why would such a detailed account of angelic rebellion, of giants, of divine judgment be erased from official scripture? Was it too dangerous, too close to a truth that would unravel everything we thought we knew about heaven and earth? The truth about the fallen angels is not comfortable. It is not clean. It forces us to face the possibility that humanity's story has been shaped not only by God, but by beings who defied him. That our knowledge, our progress, even our very blood may carry the fingerprints of rebellion. And so we are left with a haunting question. If the Watchers once walked among us, and if their influence still lingers in our world, then how much of what we call human is truly our